Trump 2.0, what to expect in the next 4 years with immigration, and what changes could happen to your immigration case. Hi guys, I'm attorney Yael Brudner, located here in Southern California. I'm coming to you live on YouTube and Facebook, and we have a lot of hot topics to discuss today. If you are joining us live, welcome, or if you're watching this in the replay, great. If you have any questions, feel free to write them in the comments, and I promise to try to get to them as we go. And if you're watching the replay, you can just still ask your question and I'll try to respond as soon as possible. Just a general disclaimer, everything that we will be discussing today is considered general information. So it's not legal advice. It's not specific legal advice for your case. But if you are interested in getting some legal advice, one-on-one consultation, then feel free to reach out. You can call us, visit our website, and we will also have the link to book a free call with our team. So let's jump right in. Trump 2.0, what is going to happen in the next 4 years? Obviously, we don't know for sure, but we have our thoughts based on what Trump has been saying throughout the campaign, based on what he has done in the first administration, and also based on a plan that actually came out called Trump 25, where he lays out his plans for the entire administration and also for immigration as well. So what are we going to be talking about today? Today, we will first talk a little bit about what happened in the first Trump administration. We'll talk about mass deportations. A lot of you guys were worried about that and sent us questions requesting for me to talk about that today. We'll talk about DACA. We'll talk about visa travel bans. We'll talk about something called denaturalization, which is a word that was thrown out quite a lot in the campaign in the last year. And also we'll talk about steps, practical steps that you can take to prepare for the coming 4 years. Okay. So Trump 1.0. What happened in the first Trump administration? Well, the good thing is that we had a Trump administration and we survived it. And even though the environment was stricter, more restrictive when it came to immigration policies, and there were a lot of families and employers and asylum seekers that were affected, a lot of what Trump said he would do didn't really happen. But here's what happened. First of all, pretty much right away, he implemented a travel ban restricting entry to the US for people from 13 countries, predominantly Muslim countries. DACA, pretty much right away, he tried to end and terminate this program. Actually, that attempt was unsuccessful, but the program has been in litigation ever since, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Refugee reductions. So Trump administration reduced the amount of refugee documents or visas that allowed people to enter the country as refugees. So quite significantly reducing it. Asylum policies became very strict and narrow, and he implemented the Remain in Mexico program. Public charge rule was a big thing, and it affected a lot of family-based immigration, family-based green cards, spousal petitions, parent-child petitions. All of a sudden, applicants for green cards had to fill out a long, intense form with 20 pages talking about their credentials and their level of proficiency in English, and what degrees do they have, how much money do they have, how much debt do they have, really to evaluate if they would be a burden on the government or relying on public benefits. So public charge rule was implemented. Biden canceled it pretty much right away when he started. Zero tolerance policy. So there was a lot of very restrictive policies at the border, including family separation. The border wall, started to build that wall, never really went very far with that. Work visa restrictions. So we saw a huge backlog when it came to H-1Bs, L-1s, J-1s, visas that are employment-based visa work visas, especially during COVID-19. We saw them completely come to a stop. Increased enforcement, so definitely more deportations, but not mass deportations, which we will talk later just in a little bit about that. And then naturalization changes. So the naturalization test was changed, and the Trump administration implemented a more complex, harder test, basically adding questions and making it harder to apply for naturalization. This was actually reversed in the Biden administration, but it might come back. But again, like I said, this is a lot. I want to emphasize that even though Trump administration did put a lot of restrictions on immigration, and as immigration attorneys, we're all a little bit suffering from post-trauma, because every morning we would wake up to a new policy memo or a new requirement that wasn't there before. But it doesn't mean that our clients did not win their cases, did not get green cards or visas or asylum or VAWA. So yes, a lot of changes, but still, immigration did not come to an end in the first administration. Let's talk a little bit about mass deportations, just looking now forward to the new administration. There's a lot of rhetoric about mass deportations, and people are very, very nervous about it because of how Trump has been talking about this. A lot of rhetoric about utilizing military resources, using a law from 1807 called the Insurrection Act to allow the military to come and really help out with enforcing deportation, expediting or expanding the use of expedited removal, which is a deportation that is quicker. It's relevant to people that have been in the United States for less than 2 years. Targeting sanctuary cities. So there's a lot of rhetoric, a lot of talk about cities like Los Angeles or New York or states like California that really do not cooperate closely with immigration. So there's a difference between the regular police and the immigration police. So the Trump administration is saying that they will put on penalties on these cities, right? Financial penalties because of their policies to be sanctuary cities, and also increase detention capabilities. So the goal for Trump's administration is to create more space to detain people that will be placed in deportation proceedings. So it sounds horrible, and it's very alarming, right? This rhetoric, this kind of speech, imagining military soldiers on the streets looking for people. But is this really possible? And really at what cost? There are estimated to be 11 million undocumented individuals in this country. And this is true to 2022, so the number is higher at this point. And in modern years in the history, the United States has never deported more than 500,000 in a year. Because the reason is because it takes a lot of effort, logistically, operationally, to deport people. Most people are not subject to expedited removal. So most of the people here in the United States that are undocumented will have to go through an immigration process, a legal process that takes years, requires judges, requires detention centers, requires law enforcement to enforce this. So while presidents do have broad powers when it comes to immigration, right? They can do a lot of things. Realistically, there are practical difficulties to do a mass deportation. Okay, it's almost unrealistic to do that. First of all, high costs. It would cost billions and billions of dollars every year to do mass deportations. Logistical challenges, like I mentioned, lack of police officers, lack of detention centers, lack of judges to prosecute these deportation cases, and also legal hurdles. There are groups and agencies that are ready with litigation to try to stop these kinds of policies. So it's, in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of my colleagues, we were not going to see this mass deportation in millions like the Trump plan is saying. Yes, we might see increased enforcement, right? We might see some things right after he takes presidency, something right away to shock everybody, maybe something in a sanctuary city or sanctuary state, right? We might see something happening, something big, but honestly, mass deportation, deploying the military to the streets, most likely we will not see. Okay. Let's talk about DACA, okay? Because DACA is a super hot topic and it's relevant to a lot of people. But for those of you that don't know what DACA is, DACA stands for the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. And it is a program that provides protection from deportation for individuals that were brought into the United States as children, was out of their control. Their parents brought them when they were children, and they have lived in the United States for their whole life. They know no other life than in the United States, and English is their first language. And they went to school here from elementary to middle school to high school, and they have this protection right now from deportation. Right? They don't have legal status, but they have some protection through DACA program. Currently, there's 600,000 approximately DACA recipients, which provide a huge annual economic contribution to this country. Pretty much straight, when Trump took office, he tried to rescind the program. Trump tried to cancel DACA pretty much right away, and his efforts were actually unsuccessful. So he was not able to rescind the program. It got all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to cancel the program. But ever since, it has been in litigation. So Trump kind of opened the door to trying to cancel this. And actually, in September of 2023, a Texas federal court ruled that the DACA program was unlawful. So the court in Texas actually agreed with the Trump administration and said that DACA should have never happened the way it happened. It's an unlawful program, and basically stopped immigration from accepting any new DACA applications. The current rule, basically, the judge said that USCIS immigration can accept renewals for DACA, but not new DACA applications. And this is right now in appeal. So the decision came out that the program is illegal and no new DACAs can be given, but this is an appeal at the Fifth Circuit of Appeals, and we'll see what will happen. In terms of what is Trump going to do with this, most likely the fate of the DACA program is going to be decided by the Supreme Court again, and most likely Trump is not going to do anything drastic. That's the thought. That's what we're thinking. Not going to do anything drastic right away. There's a really big, massive support for DACA, for Dreamers. So, on the long list of things he wants to do, most likely what we're thinking is that he will kind of leave the DACA program in the hands of the Supreme Court. But this is just a reminder, if you are in DACA and you can renew, now is the time. Now is the time to renew your DACA. Okay. Visa travel bans. Okay, so pretty much in the beginning of his administration, I want to say it was the first week of his new administration, Trump put a ban on individuals from 13 countries, mostly Muslim countries, and basically said, you guys can't come into the US. Even if you have a visa, and we're not going to give you a visa if you're applying for one. So what we're thinking is going to happen is that we're going to see these travel bans come back. So travel bans were, again, challenged by the court. First, there were many people filed lawsuits against these travel bans, and there was a lot of litigation around it. It ended up being accepted by the court in some variation, but then canceled with the Biden administration. So what we're seeing is that what we're thinking is going to happen is that these bans are going to return. And in Trump's 2025 plan, he talks about making the bans broader, making it stricter criteria to qualify for a visa for certain countries, and expand the countries that are affected. Trump even talked about extending this ban to people that are protesting against the US or protesting against US allies. Just regarding visas in general, what we saw in the first administration was reduced staffing levels and increased background checks at the US consulates abroad. So what happened was a lot of people left the Department of State and they did not hire more people at the Department of State. So even though laws weren't changed and certain visas weren't canceled, practically there weren't enough officers to process these visas, and processing times went very, very, very long. So we're anticipating that this is going to come back. Next, I want to talk about denaturalization, because this is something that we are hearing and maybe a lot of people don't even know what that is. What is denaturalization? So denaturalization is a process where the government can take someone's citizenship if they gain their citizenship through naturalization, if the government can prove that they obtained their naturalization through fraud or misrepresentation. And denaturalization was always a thing. It's in the law of the United States, but it's very rare. And in Trump's first administration, there weren't a lot cases that were filed, 150 cases annually. It's a very, very low number. There's a very specific process for denaturalization. You have to open an investigation, and then you have to file a lawsuit in the court, and it can take years, and there's a heavy resources that go with that. It costs a lot of money to pursue denaturalization. So what Trump is saying is that they're going to increase, allocate more resources, expand the denaturalization task force. Okay, but I wouldn't worry that much about denaturalization. It's not going to be something that we're going to see widespread or mass denaturalizations. Okay, so what can you do to prepare for the Trump administration, during the new Trump administration? I know a lot of people are worried and they're nervous, and our phones have been very, very, very busy with people that are really concerned, and justifiably. We get it and we understand. There are some things that you can do to prepare. First, number one, what I would recommend is to stay informed. Okay, so follow reliable news outlets and updates on policy changes. Stay away from social media or certain influencers on social media. If you're following people on social media, make sure that they're immigration attorneys and they are credentialed, they're licensed. So don't get news or consume news from people that are not reliable. Okay, consult with an immigration attorney. I cannot emphasize this more. If you haven't had a consultation with an immigration attorney recently, you need to get one, because so many things have changed. And maybe, many years ago you were told there's nothing to do in your case, but maybe things have changed. Maybe your circumstances have changed, or maybe you're qualified for something. If you are qualified for any kind of immigration case, I want to encourage you to take action, to take that first step, because it's so much better to be in process with an immigration case pending than to have nothing pending, no case pending for you. If you get stopped on the street and you're asked for your immigration status and you don't have an immigration status, but you have a case pending, that gives you a better level of protection. Not necessarily will protect you from deportation, but will make your case look better than someone that doesn't have a case. So talk to an immigration attorney to get specific advice to your situation. Don't rely on your friend or your cousin or your uncle that went to a consultation and you have the same case as them. Okay, we offer a first free call with our intake team. We're going to link a link below if you want to go ahead and take advantage of that, or you can call us or text us. Make sure you get that consultation. Another tip is to prepare and safeguard your documents. So really have your documents in place. your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, if you're married before, divorce decree. Keep them in a place where you know where they are. If you have a criminal record or you've ever been arrested before, it's a good idea to get a background check and to know exactly what's on your record. Maybe you could go back. Maybe your record was many, many years ago and you can go back and vacate your conviction. Maybe you can fix the record so that you are not someone with an active criminal history record, okay? If you can renew your DACA, renew it. If you can apply for an immigration case, do it. Don't wait. If not now, I don't know when to start your immigration case. Honestly, now is the time. Know your rights. There's a lot of information about what your rights are as an undocumented person in this country. You do not have to open the door to anyone that does not have a warrant with your name on it signed by a judge, okay? You do not need to open the door, even if they have a warrant with your name on it and it's signed by a judge. You don't have to let them come in and see who else is in the house, okay? Know your rights. If you're a lawful permanent resident, if you have a green card, get educated and knowledgeable about how you can lose your status, because a lawful permanent resident, guess what? It's not permanent. You could be subject to deportation. Get educated about that. If you're a lawful permanent resident and you can apply for naturalization, do it. Do it now. Becoming a U.S. citizen is the strongest status you can have here. Avoid risks. Something very, very important I want to tell everybody. Avoid any contact with law enforcement, with the police. Do not drink and drive at all, not even one beer, nothing. Don't do it, because getting a DUI could place you in deportation proceedings. Even one DUI. Having a DUI doesn't make you deportable necessarily if you're a lawful permanent resident, but if you don't have a status, you can get deported as a result of a DUI. You can be placed in immigration proceedings, okay? Don't do it. Build support, connect with others, advocacy groups, community networks. So important to have that, basically that the community of support that you can rely on and you can discuss your situation with. And then plan for emergencies. You know, it's always good. This is something everybody should do regardless of their immigration status. What is your plan for an emergency, right? If you have young kids, what's the plan for the kids, okay? Who has a copy of your documents, right? So who knows your information? Okay. Great, guys. So that was our presentation today. We have linked that link for the free intake call with our team. And I want to encourage you guys all to reach out and schedule a call with us. We would love to help you. We've been working pretty much around the clock, helping as many people as we can, you know, in this time. And I want to end with reassuring everybody. I said it in the beginning. Yes, we are expecting 4 years with more pushback. We're expecting restrictions. We're expecting increased enforcement, delays, backlogs, and things are going to get harder. But that does not mean that you cannot win your immigration case. You can. We've done it before. We've been through it once, and we all survived. Okay, so thank you for everybody that was here today. If you're watching this on the replay, feel free to write any questions if you have them. If you're new to our channel, please feel free to like, subscribe so you can get more information about events like this and about important immigration updates. Bye, everyone. Stay safe. God bless you, and I'll see you really soon.